So what I was interested in is sort of, why did you get started on this sort of matter?
I think it was round about mid 2019 that I noticed that the plant-based messaging was getting louder and louder. It was ubiquitous, and that many of the arguments that were being used, many of the facts that were being used to support that just simply didn't correspond with facts as I understood them. So I started doing the research. You may remember there was a movie that came along called The Game Changers, and that really was a tipping point for me because a lot of young people, particularly on the back of that film, said they were going to give veganism a try. And I could see a health catastrophe in the making, and I thought, right, we have to start putting the alternative point of view and get a deeper level of understanding out there, hence the book.
So is this something that the people who are perpetrating the veganism, is it something that they genuinely believe, or do you think that they know that that what they're doing is perpetrating a con?
Well, I think that what you have is people who are ordinary vegetarians and vegans who really believe that this is the best diet for them and they like to eat that way. And by the way, they should be able to eat however they want. And I really do believe that. But then that message of that small group of people is amplified by corporate messaging from the big food industry, from big ag, by the media who love the headlines that are associated with this, by some global non-profit organizations. So it's that's amplifying this and making it seem like an inarguable argument, really.
I remember, and we've been talking about Paul McCartney today, he's 80 today, and he was one of the advocates of, well, at the time it was vegetarianism, but then they got to talking about this sort of carbon dioxide emissions from cows, and I can't remember how many years back, seemed to be the start. It was cows were the enemy of the people and were destroying the environment. But when you look at it, 5% of emissions is from cows, and then you look at sort of energy in cars, and you say it's over 50%. So why do you think we sort of took a disliking to the cows?
Well, do you know, I think it's because both at a national level and at the individual level, it feels easier to attack that. A person can give up eating meat and think they're doing something very constructive, and what they don't realize is that the rest of their lifestyle is generating so much more in terms of emissions. So, for instance, you could eat a 4-ounce steak, British steak, 3 times a week for a year, and that would generate 1/6 of the carbon emissions of a single transatlantic flight. Wow. So this is why Professor Miles Allen has stated very publicly, and he's a UK scientist who served on the IPCC's committee for 1.5 degrees. He has said that eliminating methane from cattle will have a very insignificant impact on global warming, and that if we don't sort out the fossil fuel-generated warming elements, pretty much everything else is irrelevant.
And the other thing, because it did then talk about, it was about health for you and it was about the environment and environmental impacts. And then I see now everybody, and the biggest selling, I think, non-alcoholic drink is plant-based milks. And so you've got almonds there. But when you look at how much water is needed to grow a single almond, and then all of us now are on sort of almond milk, I wonder what is the impact on the planet for that in areas that doesn't have much water?
That's right. And these milks and almonds are not the only products that are being held up for making false claims about their environmental benefits. So we've seen just this week a very large retailer in this country has been slapped on the wrist by the Advertising Standards Authority because they're making false claims about the benefit of their plant-based foods for the environment. That's happening in America. It's happened recently with a big brand of oat milk in January was also held up by the advertising standards. So I believe that the message is starting to be questioned, and the more data we can bring to the table, the better.
Haven't sort of vegans always said, though, that, you know, you can't just have a vegan diet, but you can take supplements in order to replicate the benefits that you'd get from eating meat? Is there any?
They do say that, but there's an awful lot of supplements are required. So one of the things I do in detail in my book, there's a chapter on every nutrient that is missing in a plants-only diet, one without any animal source foods. And there's a huge range. You've got vitamin A, you've got B12, you've got all the B vitamins, really. You've got DHA, which is essential for brain functioning. You could go on and on and on. You could try to take a supplement for all of that. But supplements don't work outside of the food matrix in exactly the same way. It's really not a good strategy.
I just wonder about how many of these messages we should believe. 'Cause, I mean, I used to work for Asda before, and there was always a big thing. It's still going now. It's still a massive thing, isn't it? 5 a day on fruit and veg. Now, I'm pretty sure, and I was at Asda when all of this 5 a day stuff was started out, and I'm pretty sure that there's never been any official advice to have 5 a day. I'm pretty sure it was made up by somebody. I'm not sure who.
It's made up by somebody who made it as a marketing slogan. And it doesn't mean that vegetables aren't great.
No.
I love vegetables, by the way, and we should eat as many as we can, but there is no scientific basis to the 5 a day.
No, because there's never been any official advice. So it makes you wonder, doesn't it, how many of these sort of messages
that we're living by were made up in some sort of PR room. The other thing is, you know, I'd like to think that I'm a healthy eater, and I'd say I'm a flexitarian, so I have a bit of everything. I don't do dairy. Don't ask, became intolerant. But when I looked at some of these vegan packaged foods, because I could have quite easily eaten that, I was horrified of what all the chemicals that were in it. So if you're looking for healthy, and is that what you're promoting? Look for healthy.
Look for real food, basically.
Look for real food.
Real food.
Okay.
A wide variety of real food, the widest variety you can. And that's like an insurance policy for your health. You almost can't go wrong with that, especially for children. You know, if you can just get them to eat that wide variety of real food instead of the packaged stuff.
I think my grandma always used to say, have a bit of everything. You know,
mine too.
It was always about having a balance. You know, have a balanced diet. So
and that's gone out of fashion.
It has, hasn't it?
What was it? A little bit of what you fancy doesn't do you wrong, or something like that.
There you go.
I don't know where to drag that up from.
Jane Buxton, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We really appreciate it. I think I might go and celebrate with a chicken madras tonight on the back of that.
And why we wanted you in, because I was reading about you, because it was about dispelling some of those myths, about how things become faddish. We all then read it, we all consume it, we all think that's what we're going to do. So it was just to bring a bit of balance into this debate. And I thought, this woman's got a lot to say. We've got to have her on.
Thank you very much. That's great.